Yo guys, Superior David here, and today we're going to be talking about some of the best post-nerf decks so far. This recent balance patch really split the community at first, particularly the pro players who are getting, I think the technical term is butthurt over some of these changes, but I think as we've seen over the past few days, the meta that we have is relatively healthy at the moment. While there are some decks that are very popular and very flashy, no deck is really performing like overwhelmingly better than anything else, and you know, it really feels like you can climb with any sort of deck at the moment and just do well on ladder. But that being said, I'll still give you my thoughts on what I think are the best decks in the game at the moment. And I guess real fast before we get into that, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because not only does it really help me out, but it lets me know that you like these types of videos, and you know, if you like them, I'll make more of them in the future. So I guess with that out of the way, let's get into these decks. Now, first up, we've got Lasagne's Rank 2 Legend Big Spell Mage. Big Spell Mage is definitely the breakout deck of the balance changes. It's definitely the most popular deck on ladder, and I think it's the deck that's really defining the meta at the moment. And basically the idea behind this deck is that we want to just cheat out our big spells, the Drakefire Amulet and the Rune of the Archmage, as soon as possible. And we've got like two main ways to do that, with the first being the Belinda Stonehearth. You just play Belinda on curve on turn 6, you draw one of the, two of these big spells, they now cost 5 mana due to Belinda's effect, and then you play them the following turn to just do some scamming. And then the other way we can cheat out our big spells is with the Barbaric Sorceress, which swaps the cost of a spell in our hand with a spell in our opponent's hand. That's really powerful because there's not really much spell disruption in the game, and it really throws opponents for a loop, especially, you know, if you can get some get this out at like just a turn early with the Mailbox Dancer. Mailbox Dancer, you know, gives us a coin, and so it allows us to get the Barbaric Sorcerers down early, which is really just how you scam games. If your opponent is silly enough to kill this Mailbox Dancer and not use the coin that the Mailbox Dancer will give them, you could potentially make one of your expensive spells cost 0 mana. And I think people are starting to catch on to this little wombo combo, but if you haven't, for the love of God and all that is holy, if you're playing a big spell mage and they give you a coin with the Mailbox Dancer, use that coin before they can play Barbaric Sorceress. If you don't, I 100% guarantee you are going to have a bad time. Now, for a little bit more inevitability, we also run the Dawn Grasp, you know, mainly because of the hero power, and that's why we run the Reckless Apprentice, which, you know, it can be sort of nice early game against some more like aggressive decks, but you really want to wait to play it until after you have Dawn Grasp online, because then you can do some like filthy plays where like you clear off your opponent's board and also scale up the damage of your hero power, just really nutty stuff. Now, overall, Big Spell Mage is performing, you know, it's performing better than people are giving it credit for. A lot of people are like, oh, it's an arena deck. But I think the deck actually's got some power in its pocket. And while, again, I don't think it's the best deck in the game, it's very popular. It's a lot of fun to play. So definitely check it out if you haven't already. Now, moving right along, we've got PocketTrain's also ranked 2 Legend Midrange Shaman. Now, this is a deck that was pretty good before the balance changes, and I think has only gotten better after the balance changes, because, you know, Warrior definitely gave this deck a hard time. But what makes this deck so powerful is it's just such a flexible deck. You know, it truly is a mid-range deck. And, you know, you could have like these really aggressive starts with like the Schooling and the Where Are You, the Wildpaw Cavern, and you could cheat a bunch of Murlocs onto the board really fast with like Clownfish. And that puts a lot of pressure on the board really fast, and you could often just win games if before your opponent can get off the ground. Then at the same time, you can also go like more of like a long sort of attrition value game with like the Snowfall Guardians and just like you know, keep freezing your opponent's board. Or you could go for like a Mutinous play where, you know, you just keep recurring like Mutinous's Battle Cry with the Brilliant Macaws, or even like something with Bolner to just like eat all the minions out of your opponent's hand. And then if all else fails, you've got the Brucan Hero card, which I feel like has gotten a lot better post nerfs, because with, you know, with the Warriors out of the game, the damage that you can sort of accumulate over time from Brucan is actually really impactful. And when I play against this deck, I find like I'll run my opponent out of cards, I'll be like, yes, I got him. But then they play the Brucan, and then they just keep getting like this awesome hero power like turn after turn, and then eventually they just sort of outvalue me. And I think Brucan, just the hero card, is just so good at the moment. And I think overall this deck, you know, it's relatively even with Big Spell Mage, which is a deck you're going to be running into a lot. So, you know, it makes it really good for ladder. And I think just, again, for the reasons I mentioned, just the flexibility allows it to go toe to toe with like most decks in the game at the moment. So personally, this is the deck that I play if I just like want to win games. So if you want to win games, definitely check out PocketTrain's, you know, mid-range Shaman deck. Very good list. So next up on the list, we've got Beast Hunter, and I'm not sure who made this specific list, but this is the version that I've been seeing everywhere, and I think it's the best iteration of the Beast Hunter archetype at the moment. And basically in the last balance patch, all the mana cheating in the game basically took a big hit. You know, From the Depths got nerfed, Spylash Siren got nerfed, really scammy mid-range mana cheating. But the Harpoon Gun, which was buffed in the patch before, did not get touched at all. And this card is still busted in this deck. It's easily the best card in the deck. You play it on curve, and then you could cheat out like, a Mountain Bear or even like a Hydrolodon the following turn. But, even if you don't, this deck still has a lot going on for it. We're able to have very aggressive starts with like the Vicious Slither Spear or like Cane Ninotron, and then we can sort of snowball that with like a Doggy Biscuit and where are you? The Ramming Mouth, Naga's Pride, just really good early game. And then we sort of back up all this early game with that powerful late game of just being able to cheat out big beasts with the Ajaran Saber, and we had the Pet Collector to be able to tutor up both the Ajaran Saber and the Sunken Saber. Ideally, you want to get that King Crush out early. Doesn't always happen, but when you do, it feels so good to smack your opponent in the face. And I guess what I particularly like about this version of the deck is that it's more aggressive. We got the Barb Nets, which is just damage from hand, as well as the Quick Shot and the Raj Najan, which could turn some of these like more expensive spells into damage at your opponent's face. And I think that's really good at the moment because, we've got Big Spell Mage, which is sort of scammy and can really like just push you off the board with all the random shenanigans. Then we got the Midrange Shaman that I just talked about, which can sort of, just freeze your boards and stall you out. So I think being able to have some damage from hand is really good at the moment. And I guess as for, closing thoughts on this deck, I think Beast Hunter as an archetype is really well positioned because it's got, a relatively good matchup spread. And even its unfavored matchups, you could just sort of scam those with like an early Sunken Saber into High Roll and King Crush. So you never really feel like you're out of the game with this deck. So next up on the list, we've got Sinah's rank 4 legend Holy Paladin. Now, Holy Paladin, according to HS Replay, has been like the only tier 1 deck since the balance patch has dropped. And actually, I played some Holy Paladin the other day, and it really was performing quite well. Because even if you're getting scammed by like Big Spell Mage with them getting their big old dragons out early, you still have ways to deal with that with like, Equality or like the Righteous Defense, and then just like a bunch of like wild pyro shenanigans. So I think that alone gives this deck a lot of power, and also allows like Holy Paladin to deal with like most of the board-based decks in the game. And then, of course, we've got everyone's favorite card, the Lightforge Curiel, which, even at 8 mana, this card is still really freaking good, especially because at the moment, no one's really running Rust-Rot Viper. So, oftentimes, the immovable object, it's not going anywhere. It's going to keep just halving all your opponent's damage, and this gives you the time and the space to just keep buffing up minions in your hand with your hero power. And to close out the games, we got the Mr. Smite, of course, which at 7 mana, still pretty good because, when you're buffing it by like 4 every turn, then you got like Garden's Grace over here to give him more attack. The 1 mana nerf to Smite doesn't really do much. And so if you want to win games on ladder, I think Holy Paladin is just amazing at the moment. It just feels like no one's playing this deck, and actually, like, if you look at the stats, it performs really well. Finally, to round out the list, we've got DracoCatt's rank 155 legend Fell Demon Hunter. And personally, I have not really been having success with Fell Demon Hunter, but I keep seeing like all these people on Twitter doing well with it, and I think the deck, it still has some really good things going for it. You could just curve out really aggressively with snowballing minions like the Slither Spear and the Battleswarm Vanguard, and just take immediate control of the board. And then, you just keep going face. You can get in like a Steno to get like more tempo and damage at your opponent's face, smack him in the dome with like a big old Bone Glaive, or get like a lot of pressure on the board with the Kurtrus. And then the astute viewer will see that we still have the Xylag, which, even though Caria was nerfed, it turns out Xylag's still pretty good in its buff state. And then, of course, we got, Jace as like the catch-all win condition, which allows you to just get so much damage face. Again, like I haven't really been having success with Fell Demon Hunter, but it's hard to deny that people are putting up good results with this deck. So, I think Fell Demon Hunter still worth checking out if you want to, play something a bit more on the aggressive side of things. And there you have it. These are what I think are the best post-nerf decks so far. Just to recap, we've got the Big Spell Mage list, which, it's very popular. I don't think it's the best deck in the game, but very popular, really dictating the meta right now. And then to follow that up, we've got PocketTrain's Midrange Shaman list, which is just a really flexible deck that's performing really well in the current meta. We've got the Beast Hunter, which, like the Midrange Shaman deck, really benefited from the nerfs and is just all around decent deck. We've got Holy Paladin, which, could very well be the best deck in the game according to the stats, but will players play it? Maybe after watching this video. And then to round out the list at number 5, we got, DracoCatt's Fell Demon Hunter. Again, a deck that I haven't been doing very well with, but people continue to put up good results with this deck. So I think it's one that you really got to respect. And I guess if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe if you made it this far, because, you're probably liking something I'm doing here. And if you want to see videos on these decks or just have any thoughts on these decks in general, let me know down in the comments. In the meantime, stay superior, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later. Get that